Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and where we support each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Reverend Kate Wilkinson, and I am so glad that you have joined us this morning. You've joined us for one of my favorite services of the year, Water Communion, the day when we each bring a small amount of water with us to represent our individual journey, and we pour it into a communal bowl as a way of mingling our stories and ourselves, and then that blessed water becomes the holy water of this community, water that will bless babies and wedding rings and pets. Traditionally, Unitarian Universalist churches take part in this ritual in the early fall. The implication is that we have been apart from each other for the summer and are now coming back together for the new church year. Lots of UU churches are closed or lay-led during the summer months, and so they call this first Sunday back in-gathering. Well, we have not been gone. We have not been apart. Some of us have been online, but we have not been separate from this community. Summer is our busy time here. But as the page of the season turns, as we feel that little chill in the air, as it becomes a little easier to navigate Commercial Street, it does feel like a new beginning. And so our ingathering is a regathering, a recentering. And it includes those of you who have been here in September for 40 years, and it includes those of you who just made your way through our doors for the first time today. Don't worry if you didn't bring any water. We have some for you. Today is also the anniversary of 9/11. And so we mark this poignant date, 21 years since the towers fell and our world changed so significantly. And we are also going to take up a special collection during our offering today. So it's a very busy day today at the meeting house, but how special that you are here for it. Welcome to those of you in the room, and welcome also to those of you joining us via our live stream. Before we begin our worship service, I have just a few announcements to share. Tonight at 5 is the last great music concert of the season. They'll be finishing up with Broadway Curtain Call. It's the big finales of the biggest Broadway shows, and we hope that you can come back for that. Thank you to John Thomas, to Linda and Barbara, Lauren Murphy, Will Hildreth and Sean Byrne, and everyone else who made such a great concert series happen this year. And speaking of thank yous, we send out an enormous thank you to Michael Fernandez, who for many years has been keeping our members and friends in the loop with his What's Happening This Week emails, Facebook posts, and website calendar. Michael, we are so appreciative of how you have kept track of so much information from so many areas of Meeting House life and condensed it all into an easy-to-find list that has kept us all on track and communicating well with one another. Michael is handing this role over to staff after many years. This has been a huge behind-the-scenes volunteer role, and we can't thank you enough, but we're going to try. And speaking of volunteer roles, I have such good segues this morning in the announcements. We are looking to fill another important volunteer position. We are in need of a volunteer to restock our food pantry every other Wednesday, starting in October. We will train you and it is a very meaningful job, I must say. So if you are looking for something to give deep purpose to your Wednesdays, please let me or Kenneth know. If you have questions, you can ask us or you can ask Pat Medina. She is one of the great pantry volunteers and can tell you all about it. And if you'd like to be on our list of backup pantry volunteers, we'd love to add to that list as well. Sometimes we need someone just if one of our regular volunteers is sick or on vacation. It takes a whole team to run this important community ministry. Those of you who are here in person, we hope that you will linger a while on our lawn after the service for coffee and good conversation. Talk to someone you don't know. That's always a good thing to do to start off the church year. And finally, a reminder that I am dashing off directly after the service to catch a plane. Our bags are in the car. I will be on vacation this week, so please direct any questions or concerns or pastoral care needs to Kenneth in the office, and he will either answer them or direct them where they need to go. Thank you to all of you who keep this community running. And now let us continue by affirming our community's covenant. I invite you to repeat each line after me. Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek the truth in love.
To seek the truth in love.
And to help one another. At this time, I invite Jen to light our chalice for us. As we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you watching online to light a candle wherever you are. In that way, we can feel connected, even while we are apart.
Chalice Lighting by Karen Johnston. This is a call to flow as rivers flow, effortlessly and mighty, to find hope in each other, to inspire each other, to never go it alone. This is a call to new beginnings, to new creations, to new chances to do good deeds, to forgive and seek forgiveness, and be written into the book of life. This is a call to offer solace when it is needed and where, to find joy whenever it offers itself up in the now of every moment. This is a call to find your heart's most precious intention, letting it have its wild way with you. This is a call to come back, come home, come to your senses, come to yourself, come to your whole and holy self. This is a call for body and soul, for each and for every to be healed by flowing waters, by mighty waters, by sacred waters that show us the way. Come, let us worship together.
Please join me now in a spirit of meditation and prayer. If you have a joy or a sorrow on your heart this morning, you are welcome to light a silent candle during the prayer or at any time during the service at the table to the right of the pulpit. And there is a journal there to record your thoughts and prayers. And if I could ask you to add to your prayer list this week Meeting House member Roger Chauvette, who is having surgery tomorrow on his spine. So please hold him and his surgeon on your hearts, if you would. Our prayer this morning is by Reverend Jude Geiger. Spirit of life, God of many names, source of love. Help us to enter this new year with a spirit of renewal. Open our hearts to the possibility of abundance. Open our hands to do the work of what the year brings to us with meaning and integrity, with care and love. Prepare our lips to speak with truth and care. All of these blessings will be needed to prepare the road ahead for justice and healing. We pause once more, as some do every day, to remember the lives lost 21 years ago on a Tuesday morning. We mourn the friends that we can no longer greet. We hold in our hearts the families that are missing a parent, a sister, a son. We acknowledge that a new generation has seen its innocence of worldly anguish pass away. Knowing that each of us must wrestle with memory and loss in our own ways, we pray for the strength of heart to face these difficulties with integrity. That we know deep down that a warm community sits all around us, ready to stretch out a hand so that the way ahead is a little less solitary, less strange. May our memory and our grief not alter our prayerful convictions for a world of hope and love. May the harm done that fateful day not deter our spirits 1 inch from a path of building that world we dream about. May we not learn to become creatures of reaction, recreating harm in the world around us for the harm done. This morning we keep close in our hearts those who lost their lives. We offer deep gratitude to all the helpers, the first responders, and the communities that picked up the pieces on a day that shattered so much. We also rejoice for the congregations and communities spread throughout this country who have learned to break bread and share in worship across religious aisles, who appreciate the shared messages of love and healing that are taught by Christians, by Jews, by Muslims, by religions the world throughout. It is in this spirit that the world may know peace. May it be so. Amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in my hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Reading We Share the Same River by Mark Nepo. I was traveling in South Africa and felt very tender one morning when my friend Kim came upon me as I was weeping. She asked if I was okay. I told her it was only the waters of life splashing up my shore. Later that day, I found her near tears and checked in with her. She said, "The river's now in me." We looked into each other and realized that we all share the same river. It flows beneath us and through us, from one dry heart to the next. We share the same river. It makes the earth one living thing. The whole of life has a power to soften and open us against our will, to irrigate our spirit. And in those moments, we discover that tears, the water from within, are a common blood, mysterious and clear. We may speak different languages and live very different lives, but when the deep water swells to the surface, it pulls us to each other. We share the same river, and where it enters, we lose our stubbornness, the way fists wear open when under in the stream of love.
Now is the time in our service where we usually take a collection for the ongoing support of this meeting house, but today is a little bit different. As we planned and talked about the power of water for today's ceremony, our minds could not help but go to our siblings in Pakistan, who have been so devastated by the power of water this season. Severe monsoon flooding in Pakistan has been unlike any other year. The disaster has affected more than 33 million people. People's homes have sunk in floodwater or been swept away. 1 million houses have been damaged or destroyed, leaving behind millions in need of urgent shelter. Water communion is also about the power of community. And so we wanted our water communion, our in-gathering service, to be a positive force in the world, not just for us, but for those who are suffering. We asked our social action committee to identify an organization doing good work in Pakistan. They have found a group called Shelterbox. Shelterbox is on the ground immediately after disasters to provide emergency aid. They bring tents, water filters, water carriers, mosquito nets, and solar lights. They fill the immediate need for shelter and safety. Although they do this work all around the world, they have worked in Pakistan before, in 2010, so they know the country, and they are there now. You can give by cash, check, or online. Checks should be made out to UUMH Ministers Fund with Pakistan in the memo line. To donate online, please go to shelterboxusa.org. I think I might have sent out the UK web address before, so I apologize if that was confusing. But go to Shelterbox USA to give and to learn more about their amazing work. And as Kurt offers our musical reflection today, we ask you to give generously. We are all part of the same river. Your offering will now be gratefully received.
Like a ship at sea in a whirling storm, the crew is tired and the journey is long. No sighting of land turns time on end, and the sailors keep watch for the lantern. From every storm, a lesson is born. From the darkest night to the starless dawn, one dies at sea, one reaches the land, each with his eyes on the lantern. And the timber of the boat, the bones of the whale, a wreath on the water, a tear in the sail, carving a locket for a loved one to wear, and in it a lock of his hair. Life at sea will try one's soul like nothing else, or so it's been told. At sea the sailor longs for the land, but keeps watch for the lantern. And the timber of the boats, the bone of the whale, a wreath on the water, a tear in the sail. But write your name before turning in the captain's log by the lantern. Thank you.
Thank you. A number of years ago, Kurt Reynolds, who just sang that beautiful song, thank you, Kurt, came to me and asked me what we did with our candles of joy and concern when they have burnt down so far that we cannot reuse them the next week. We throw them out, I told him. He looked disappointed. Those candle stubs hold the prayers of our community, Kurt said. Seems a shame to throw them out. I wish we could do something with them. I saw his point, but what I could not see was what we could possibly do with 2-inch long melted candle stubs that are also covered in sand from the way that we hold them upright in the tray. Do me a favor and save them for me, Kurt said. Sure, I said. And we did. For over a year, we saved our candle stubs. the melted remnants of our community's prayers, our joys, our sorrows, held in the wax and stored in the burnt-up ends of wick. And true to his word, Kurt did something with them. Still don't know how he did it, but he turned our candles into this incredible bowl that you see on our water communion altar. Wax and wicks and all, with a few added elements from nature too, shells and bark. So now our recycled prayers are what hold our communal water each year for water communion. The joys and sorrows of our past form the container for the hopes and dreams of our future. This feels so right. It is a perfect vessel, and we pour ourselves into it at the beginning of each year. Now, this is the first time that we have been able to be together in this sacred space for our water communion in several years. For the last 2 years, we have held our water communion ritual outside at Beech Forest. Although it was not safe to gather inside because of the pandemic, we still needed even, to come together as a congregation, to add our water to the sacred water of this community, a tradition that we treasured. We needed that continuity. We needed that ritual to hold us together during that really difficult time. And so we did a drive-through water communion. No, really, we set up our beautiful bowl in the parking lot across from the pond at Beech Forest, and people drove under our arch of blue ribbons and reached their arms out their window and poured their offering into our sacred vessel right from the car. And it was wonderful. And we filmed each person pouring their water, including a few intrigued strangers who just happened to be passing through. And we put the footage together with music and included it as a video montage in our online YouTube services, which was how we were worshiping during the height of the pandemic for those 2 years. And then I packed everything up into my car to bring it all back to the church, to boil the water and save it in a glass jar. Now, that first year, I went directly back to the church to unpack things. But last year, and I don't know how many of you can see where I'm going with this. Last year, I decided that I would just go home and keep everything in my car until the next day. So I left the sacred bowl of our community on my front seat overnight, which was fine. But then when I got to church the next day, I was running late for a Zoom meeting, and so I left everything in the car and just ran into the building to log on, figuring I'd go back and get everything later. And maybe now a few more of you see where this is headed, which is that as the day began to heat up, with direct sun pouring right in through my windshield and onto the front seat, our sacred vessel, made of our recycled prayer candles, melted. It melted and the wax puddled inside the bowl, but also puddled on the fabric seat of my car, where it then sunk in pretty good. Now, as a minister, I'm fairly versed at getting wax out of things. I don't know if any of you have seen that joke going around Facebook and Twitter where they ask you to poorly explain what you do for a living. Well, a ministerial colleague of mine once answered by saying, "I get up in front of people and talk for 1 hour a week, and I also spend a lot of time trying to get wax out of things." That is ministry in a nutshell, explained poorly. But even with all my skills and all my free time, since I only work 1 hour a week, I could not iron or freeze or wick the wax out of my front seat. And worse than that, the bowl, the sacred bowl of our community, was badly damaged. I did not have the heart to tell Kurt. I brought the bowl into the church, confessed to our then office administrator, April, who was very sympathetic, put the bowl back in the closet, and put a beach towel over my front passenger seat for the duration of my ownership of that car. When my sweet little two-door VW Golf bit the dust, it was actually a relief not to have that daily reminder of my stupid mistake greet me each morning. And the bowl itself was out of sight, out of mind. But not totally out of mind, because once in a while I would remember and think, I really need to tell Kurt before this year's water communion. But as is often the case with hard things, it was much easier to avoid it than to face it. And so I put it off and put it off and put it off, and left the melted bowl in its dark cabinet. I don't know if any of you have ever avoided a hard thing before. Maybe. As it turns out, it does not go away. In the shadows, the hard thing grows in size. And even when you are not directly thinking about it or dealing with it, it is in the background of your subconscious, crowding out the space in there that should be devoted to other things. The naturalist and environmentalist Kevin Scribner tells us that salmon make their way upstream by bumping repeatedly into blocked pathways until they find where the current is strongest. Somehow they know that the unimpeded rush of water means that there is no obstacle there. And so they enter this opening fervently, for though it is the hardest going, the way is clear. The lesson here is as unnerving as it is helpful, Mark Nepo says in his Book of Awakening. In facing both inner and outer adversities, the passage of truth comes at us with a powerful momentum because it is clear and unimpeded. And so where we sense the rush of truth is where we must give our all. As human beings, he says, the blocked pathways of our journeys can take on many forms. And whether it be in avoiding conflict with others, or in not taking the risk to love, or in not accepting the call of the Spirit that would have us participate more fully in our days, it is often easier to butt up continuously against these blocked pathways than to enter fervently the one passage that is so powerfully clear. In this regard, Nepo says, salmon innately model a healthy persistence by showing us how to keep nosing for the unimpeded way, and once finding it, how to work even harder to make it through. 2 weeks ago, with water communion fast approaching, I finally called Kurt. And I asked if he would hear my confession. And he said he couldn't imagine what I could have done that would require his forgiveness. But when I finally did explain, he gave it freely. He was gracious and loving and accepting of my contrition. He even generously offered to fix the bowl so that we could use it again this year. Feeling the weight of guilt and avoidance lift off my shoulders, I scooped up a handful of half-used candles of joys and concern, and I got the bowl out of the closet, and I dropped them all off at Kurt's house, where I gladly accepted a hug from the artist. I'm not sure how many times over I will have to learn this lesson, that what seems hard is often what is right, and that choosing to pursue the rush of truth, even when it is difficult, is often a powerful passageway to what is, on the other side, the most life-giving. The blocked pathways of our journey indeed take many forms. We avoid conflict with others. We choose not to take the risk of love. We close our hearts to those in the world who are suffering because we fear it will hurt too much to let them in. We stay in the same job, relationship, living situation for too long because the energy required to move on feels like more exertion than we can muster. We butt our heads up against the blocked passageways over and over because that is what we know, or that is what everyone else is doing, or because we are scared. But oh, when we do find where the current is strongest, when we do sense the rush of truth and give it our all, when we do enter fervently the passage that has become so powerfully clear, we are rewarded. We are rewarded by the feeling of entering the flow of the river of life. We are rewarded by the release that comes when there is no longer a weight on our hearts. We are rewarded with the view from upstream. Friends, if there is a conflict that you have been avoiding, if there is a conversation, a choice, a truth, a dream that you have been avoiding, may I suggest exploring where the rush of truth is calling to you. For though it is the hardest going, the way is clear. At this time, I invite you to bring forward your water to add to our communal bowl, our sacred vessel, repaired, restored, healed, just like our hearts. Bring your full selves forward. You are a sacred offering. You are an important part of this community, and we are blessed by you. We are blessed by the mingling of our stories, the sharing of our journeys, the forgiveness and acceptance and celebration found here in this spiritual community. Those of you joining at home, please gather a bit of water into your presence and hold your hand over it, offering your journey up to the altar of this community. Those of you in the room, let's file up this far aisle to the front of the sanctuary, beginning with this section, then this section, and then this. If you're not already in this aisle, you can reach it from the hallway in the back, and you can return to your seats through the center and far aisles. As you pour your water, take just a moment for your hand to linger over the collected water to offer your blessings. And if you didn't bring any water, we have some for you on your way up. Let us begin. Some say it's easier for salmon, Mark Nepo writes, since the power of their drive to end where they begin is not compromised by the endless considerations that often keep us from the truth. Still, it is the heart's capacity to rise one more time after falling, no matter how bruised, that verifies that such a drive lives in us too. Like salmon, our way depends not just on facing things head on, but in moving our whole being through. May your hearts guide you to that unimpeded place, whatever it may be. May whatever lies upstream for you be full of authenticity and connection and deep purpose. And may you continue to bless and be blessed by this community. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. It has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing out on our lawn today or with friends during the week. If you want to delve deeper into this conversation, we hope that you can join us Tuesday at 5 for our Zoom coffee hour. Our question for this week is, what is something that you have been avoiding? And you could share that with others, but for yourself, you can ponder, and how can you move your whole being through? Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful week while I'm gone. Go in peace.